그는 끈기 있고 건장했다. 육체적인 필요는 외려 의미 없는 거짓 수치나 훔친 연료, 도난당한 자동차 부품, 오른손이 불구인 유쾌하고 뻔뻔스럽고 교활한 우크라이나인 채소밭지기가 운영하는 소.
That I found. It's Kim Yong-hwa, 책 읽는 시간. So he talks about books. In this particular one, he talks about Russian literature with reference to other world literature and so forth. I really enjoy them, but I don't really understand them. I like his voice, the quality of the sound, the subject matter. Each one of his podcasts is about an hour long. I see here there are 53 of them so far, so this will keep me busy for a long, long time, because I'll have to listen to it many, many times and hopefully get more of it as I go. Oh, I didn't have my microphone here. Get more of it as I go along. Ideally, I would have transcripts, but the voice quality content here is more attractive to me than much of the material for which I have audio. So I'm going to stick with it. If I could find transcripts, like for our English podcasts and some of the other language podcasts, we pay people $25, $30 an hour. That is per audio hour. So 1 hour would be $30 to transcribe them. But these are people who are well equipped and very fast. If we can find someone to do that in Korean, I would pay them. If I could get permission from Mr. Kim to use his material at Link, and if we had transcripts, I would put them into our library and share it with others. But it's quite exciting for me. This is would be a real goal to get to where I can understand what he's saying. Now, I'm reading a lot, interesting things. Chosun Ilbo, for example, an article today about, the anti-Japanese feeling in Korea, anti-Korean feeling in Japan. Quite a, discouraging article about how public opinion in both countries seems to be hardening against the other country. You never know. Journalists, they write stuff because they want to, look for sensational things. So whether that's true or not, I have no idea. But at any rate, that was the article. Lots of words. It was an interesting article. And of course, as I read these, I don't have sound for them. I don't have the transcript for this. It's not ideal. But the interest of the what I'm reading or listening to is for me more attractive than other considerations. I just can't continue listening to a material that is just created for learners. It's after a certain point, it's just not interesting enough. To me, language learning is got to be interesting. It can't be work. Of course, initially, yes, it's work to get to a point, but then as soon as I got a toehold on something that's interesting, that's what I want to run with. So, what else? Of course, I watched the hockey game this morning. Canada beat Finland, although they played a very dumb game, in my opinion. Always, around the Finnish net trying to score from 3 feet away. At any rate, they won. Then I had an hour's conversation with Joo Hyun again. We talked again about history, some of these same issues. I talked to her about the article that I had read on Chosun Ilbo. And so I was able to use some of the vocabulary that I had picked up there, that I remembered. I did a bit of reading on my iPad. And when I worked out, of course, I listened to Kim Yong-hwa here. As far as the Asimil, yesterday I had a little film clip about I made a big mistake. I thought that for €23, I was getting a complete set with 2 CDs, one for Romanian, one for Czech. In fact, all I got was the book. The complete package with CDs is like €63, which is, to me, it's like around $100. I'm not gonna spend that when all I really want is the audio. I looked through the books. Both of them are full of grammar explanations, and I have grammar resources that I've downloaded from the internet for Romanian and Czech with tons of examples that are better than the sort of very explanation heavy and exercise heavy, but no examples, a type of book that Asimil offers. I don't understand why Asimil is so popular, but I have to recognize that different people study in different ways. For me, I want content. I want to listen. I want to get the language in me. And then, so that on the other subject that I raised yesterday, which was I was going to attempt Luca's sort of translation method, I did it a little bit today, in that when I was reading an article that I had downloaded from Chosun Ilbo, I would save phrases in LingQ, creating a link therefore. So the phrase is now the term that I've saved. And then in the what we call the hint field, where you put the translation, I deleted whatever Google Translate had given me. Most of the time, it's not that accurate, and I deliberately tried to translate as well as possible the phrase that I had saved, and then I tried to translate it back into Korean. There were two problems with that. One was that if I were to do that, it would take me forever to read through this content, and 3 hours is all I have to spend on Korean, and it's going to be 1 hour at least of listening, and in the remaining hour or two I want to be reading, I want to be saving words, I want to be building up my vocabulary, I want to be consuming the language. If I sit there and try to translate all these little phrases, it's tremendously time consuming. So that kind of demotivates me to do that. And the second thing is that I found that after having done this for 10 or 15 phrases where there were words that I didn't know, when I reread the text, I wasn't any better at those words than other words. So I didn't get the impression that it helped me to retain anything. I think it would help me to get better at using Korean patterns when speaking, so it would improve my speaking. But I'm not that concerned about my speaking. I mean, I am when I speak, but once it's over, I would rather have a large vocabulary at the end of 3 months, so that I can read what educated Koreans have to say, listen to what people like this Mr. Kim here have to say, participate in a sort of an interesting way in what Koreans are thinking and saying, and so forth. And if I do that, I will end up speaking okay. So I don't need to focus in right now on nailing down these patterns of the language. I can continue to stumble. I do some listening to patterns. I do some, quick grammar review sort of thing. The things that I have on my iPod are a mixture of interesting material, authentic content if you want, and some basic patterns to, familiarize myself with these structures. But if I had 10 hours a day to spend, then I might have a different strategy. But I have 3 hours, and I would rather spend those 3 hours basically consuming interesting content, building up my vocabulary. I notice now already that I hear the language better, I read the language better. It's less of a strain to read new text in Korean, and so I'm just going to stay with the strategy. And that's why, by the way, I've taken down my Hangul chart here. I'm not going to write the language. I mean, I never write Japanese. I lived in Japan for 9 years, never had need to write it. I can type it on the computer. I can use my phonetic keyboard to type the odd thing in Russian, but mostly I listen and read and speak. So one has to make decisions. Obviously, if I were living in Korea and I was doing it as an academic subject, I might have a different set of priorities. But for my goals, I'm just going to focus on reading, listening, speaking, building up my vocabulary. So I'm in the second month here of the 3-month challenge. I'm going to maintain this focus on input, speak maybe 2 hours a week. When I get into the third month, I'm hoping to step up my weekly speaking. So that's, perhaps there were some other things that I was going to say, but I don't remember what they are, and I ranted here a bit too long anyway.